Okay. Now we have the Judean province, right? If you notice, we got Syria up at the top over there by Phoenicia. Okay, Syria is a very important piece of the puzzle in understanding the destruction of Jerusalem. Syria was a Roman vassal state or Roman vassal kingdom. They were very sympathetic and empathetic with any of the Roman rules and regulations. Syria is a pivotal aspect to this story because Syria is where the Romans actually conglomerated all their forces and garrisons mobilized in Syria before they began to attack Jerusalem. So I'm going to take you on that journey. Okay, this is Antioch. This is the capital of Syria. It would have been higher up. I put it, where we could see it because Antioch is in the story. It's where Vespasian, who was the Roman general, when he got to Syria, that was the first city that he stopped at. He got troops. He organized his troops. Then he proceeded down. Okay, now I'm reading from the Histories of Josephus, the destruction of Jerusalem. I'm going to have some of my major points. I'm going to have the exact location of where you could find it if you want to cross-reference anything that I'm saying. Just so that we're on the same page. We know that I'm not just making this stuff up. All right, I'm reading from book 3, chapter 1, paragraph 3. This is out of the Destruction of Jerusalem by Flavius Josephus. Okay, so Vespasian sent his son Titus from Achaia, where he had been with Nero. Okay, if you look up on the map to your far right, you'll be able to see the boot. The boot will represent Italy. Okay, to the right of the boot, you see Thessalonica, and then underneath that, you see Achaia. Achaia was a province, was a Grecian city, or this is where Greece would be at. You see Macedonia, that's Alexander the Macedonian, that's where he comes from. Okay, so Vespasian sent his son Titus from Achaia. For those who don't know who Vespasian is the general in charge of the destruction of Jerusalem, and Titus is his son. Okay. Nero was the emperor of Rome at the time. So Vespasian sent his son Titus from Achaia, where he had been with Nero, to Alexandria. Alexandria would be south from Achaia across the Mediterranean Sea. Alexandria is in Egypt. Okay, he went to Alexandria to bring back with him from thence the 5th and the 10th legions. The 5th and the 10th legions were the mightiest fighting legions for Rome at that time. While he himself, when he had passed over the Hellespont, came by land into Syria, where he gathered together the Roman forces with a considerable number of auxiliaries from the kings in that neighborhood. Okay, now you see that star represents Achaia. Okay, you see that? Don't worry about that line going up. Those lines are the routes. The one coming from Antioch will represent Vespasian's route to get to Ptolemais, and the dashed line coming up past Nebatea will be Titus's route from Alexandria, Egypt. All right, now before we go any further, I want to show you the Hellespont. Okay, I'm going to show you Titus's route from Achaia across the Mediterranean to Alexandria, then up and over till he got to Ptolemais. The reason why I picked that route is arguable. I picked that route because in the story, I don't have it written, but in the story, he went by land through the desert to get to Ptolemais. And that's the way that the desert is. Also, I'm going to have a map later to show you the landscape and show you how it will be more expedient for him to take that route because he had coverage, whereas though the Judeans wouldn't know that they were amassing an army against them. All right, now I'm going to show you the Hellespont. The blue circle is the Hellespont. This is Vespasian's route to get to Syria. Okay. This is a landscape map. Now, if you could see, you see the mountainous range to the far, that that mountainous range is the direction that I picked because that is the desert, and this would have gave them cover. Large army. Plus, there's another part of the story that's going to come later. In fact, I'm going to bring it up now. Okay, Malchus also, mind you, let me tell you where it's coming from. This is Book 3, Chapter 4, Paragraph 2. Malchus also, the king of Arabia, sent 1,000 horsemen besides 5,000 footmen, the greatest part of which were archers. So now we know that Arabia was involved in this destruction of Jerusalem. So Titus could have picked up the Arabians on the way through the Arabian desert. So that's another reason why I chose that route. Okay, so now, okay, Caesarea also met in Ptolemais. Now I'm not exactly sure if it was Caesarea Philippi or Caesarea. I believe that it was actually Caesarea Philippi, but it doesn't specify. So, I just brought Caesarea up. Both Caesarea Philippi and Caesarea were Roman cities. They were highly influenced by the Romans. So, all right, now let's get into it. Okay, Sepphoris. Sepphoris was the first city to fall. Once they heard that the Romans were coming, Sepphoris was actually a Judean province in the countryside of Galilee. Once they heard that the Romans were going to attack Jerusalem, they immediately forfeited. They let the Romans know they didn't want no trouble. So they conceded their land space or whatever, which eventually became a Roman fort for the onslaught. Then the next city to fall was Jotapah, which was not an easy battle. All right, then they attacked Joppa. Joppa was barely inhabited, but the Romans got word that the Jews were trying to take Joppa, or trying to set up some type of military stronghold in Joppa, and they went and they thwarted that. Okay, then they got Tiberias, Tirace. Then they got Mount Tabor, Gamala, the city of Gamala, Gishala, Gadara, Mount Gezrim, Gophna. Then they got the Hill of Saul. They took the Hill of Saul. And then from the Hill of Saul, they took Jerusalem. Right? I'm trying to show my audience how the Romans conquered the province of Judea from the north to the south. The wave came from the north to the south. Okay? So that's my basic premise in showing y'all how Jerusalem was essentially destroyed. Okay? This is a key point, that the Romans, they attacked from the north down. It was a wave all the way down till they got to Jerusalem.